All right. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Deconversion Stories. And today
Hi.
we have my very good friend, Mr. Richard. Now, is it Scheib? Is that how it's pronounced?
Scheib, yes, correct.
Yeah, right. Okay. Richard, you're originally from New Zealand, correct?
New Zealand, yes. Yep.
And so you kind of owe us an apology for Ray Comfort.
I actually knew Ray back in the day.
No.
Yeah, he would.
When he was young and just a man in love with bananas.
Yeah, he used to turn up in Christchurch in the square, which was the centre of town, and would preach on a ladder, and I'd go and argue with him.
A ladder?
Back. Yep. Well, just a small step ladder, but...
I could see him with like a 15-foot ladder just being ridiculous. But that step ladder makes sense.
Yeah.
No soapboxes available these days.
Well, the square was this really crazy place where everybody under the sun would come and stand up and preach. And we actually had our own official wizard who would, at the end of it, say, it's all bullshit, and preach nonsense philosophy that would get people really wound up and arguing with him. And then he'd turn around and make fun of them. So
that's awesome.
So it was the best free entertainment that I ever had in my lunch hour. So
yeah, no kidding. Well, Richard, when we talked about having you on the show and stuff, you said you had quite the story to share. So what I'm going to do now is allow you to just get into it, start from the beginning, get into it, and and once you finally found your way free, being an atheist and stuff like that, how you do things like activist type things, and if you do, or anything like that, and how that's been going for you.
Okay, well, as I said, I grew up in New Zealand.
Also, thank you for Lord of the Rings. He said thank you for Ray Comfort, but also thank you for Lord of the Rings. Your beautiful country provided a picturesque backdrop for one of my favorite movies. So thank you for that.
well, on behalf of New Zealanders, you're welcome. Okay, so I was raised in a cult that sort of these days is generally known as the 2x2s. It goes by a bunch of other names.
What exactly is that?
The Sith.
I'll get to that. They also have a bunch of other names, the Tent Mission, but they themselves actually refuse to take a name, and just say we're Christian believers, and informally amongst themselves they refer to it as the meetings. But nowadays, as the group has gained quite a bit more prominence, everyone refers to them as the 2x2s. The name 2x2s comes from a biblical phrase where Jesus tells his disciples to go out into the world 2x2 and preach to everybody. And so they, being literalists, take that to mean take it literally, in that so their priesthood is two men or else two women paired together and sent to various parts of the world and go and preach. And the interesting part about that is that once they do that, they're supposed to give up all their worldly possessions and have no official income, and they get by with money that's basically donated by the church members themselves. They have no official... Yeah.
How do they remove themselves of their money? Does the church help them with that?
I don't know, because the...
You know what I mean? It's like give up all your worldly possessions. Like, yeah, what? And just drop it off at the church. And then it's like, yeah, you don't need that anymore. Off in the world you go now. We'll keep all your stuff and your cash.
Well, the thing about that is that I imagine they would put all their money into a general pool that's sort of held in very secretive accounts by the church members, but also they probably just give away their anything other than a few changes of clothes to family members or other church members.
So they become donations, basically.
I would imagine. I've not really been privy to the process, so I can't say for certain on that. So they go out into the world, no official income, but then they turn up in a town or a city and basically knock on the door of one of the members of the church and say, we've come to stay with you, and they're expected to put them up for however long they're in town.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And yeah.
Motel 6. We'll leave the light on for you.
No, Motel 2. Remember, it's 2 by 2.
6 minus 4. Sorry, I apologize.
So, and the other thing is they have no actual church building, which goes is an interpretation of another verse. So all the excuse me, all the meetings they actually hold are in rented halls. There's been a tendency for funeral homes of recent, or else they actually, a lot of them are held in people's homes, so they have a meeting for us it was every Wednesday night, Sunday morning, and Sunday afternoon or evening. And so you're expected
to go along. Did they at least feed you?
Not really. Although
this is the spy church, Neil. Couldn't risk food coming in. And nobody know about. They didn't even have a name.
Well, usually, if as my parents did when we were growing up, we held one of the meetings in our home. So usually afterwards, at least one family would be invited to stay for supper or lunch or whatever. And but that was probably about the extent of being free fed. They also have an annual convention, which is sort of held over around various parts of the world, and so several hundred people will gather on the one that we used to attend, which is fairly close to our home, was held on a farm. And so they'd have sort of hundreds of tents put up in the field, and then a giant marquee tent where all the preaching would go on. And that was basically the setup of the church. There was also the very prescriptive nature of how you had to behave. And there were certain rules that you had to adhere to. And that was particularly sort of things like dress sense, where men it was sort of hair, short back and sides. You'd definitely not be accepted, Neil.
Goddamn hippies!
Goddamn hippies, spike pirates.
Yeah.
But it's most noticeable in the women. You've probably seen around town where they have quite conservative below knee length dresses. They're not allowed to wear shorts or jeans or pants of any sort.
Really?
And the hair, no makeup or jewelry, and the hair is never allowed to be cut, and is usually worn up in a bun at the back,
like a bun, yeah.
On top. So
like
it's sort of quite. Sort of more Princess Leia gone wild, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sort of quite distinctive when you see them from time to time, you know, wandering through a mall or something like that. And the other key thing is there's sort of no worldly things in the house. So you're not allowed to have radio, TV. Not allowed to go to movies. it'll differ between some other houses. Sort of no worldly music.
What?
I was allowed books and comic books, but other people.
What did you read? What did you like to read? What did you like to read?
This was sort of going back to the 70s and 80s, so I'd read a lot of British books like Biggles and the Famous Five and things like that, and a huge amount of comics, DC comics, and things like that. So those were my food, if you like.
DC comics, all right. Batman approves.
All right.
Batman.
Yeah, sorry.
Batman being read by New Zealand kids. Cool.
Yep. It was. Well, New Zealand's sort of a country that's sort of culturally a mix of British and American inputs. So, we had most of the things there, except for we had 2 channels on the TV growing up. So,
I think New Zealand needs their own.
You had a TV?
Well, that is quite an interesting story. And sort of TV in a way sort of seduced me away from the church, for the simple reason that I would find running around at school an awful lot of play that you engage in is sort of based on, as a kid, sort of imitating TV programs. So for us growing up, it was sort of things like the $6 Million Man was big. And yeah, and everyone would sort of try running around in slow motion. But of course...
That was fun for you guys. I'm sorry, that cracks me up. I get to see a bunch of kids just like across a playground. And the adults just standing there shaking their heads like, I tell him to go out and play, he's running 1 mile an hour. What is this? What is it? All the kids outside playing in slow motion is hilarious.
But yeah, it's sort of... But the whole point is in that you're not keyed in watching these programs, then you feel left out is in trying to interact as part of the play in the playground. So I became, in order to fit in, I sort of became fascinated with finding other ways to take on that colouring. So I'd read the novelizations, read the comic books, and we had sort of The Listener, which was the equivalent of the TV Guide, which would list all the upcoming programs and have articles about them and so on. So I would fanatically read these and absorb information in an effort to find out what was going on, and more basically in order to fit in. And what I didn't sort of really realise is that at the time I was sort of laying the groundwork to sort of become an entertainment writer. So there was that. And then when I was about... when I was about, I don't know, 11, 12 or so, my parents bought a restaurant. And so they were basically working sort of after school, sort of until well into the evening for the most part. And there was an old handicapped lady across the road from us. So they would give her free meals in return for us parking us children over there. And of course, she had a TV, and that we rapidly sort of became, quite fanatically became absorbed in the various programs there. And but quite hypocritically, my parents would then sort of realise that they had a way to get us kids to behave. And even though allowing the sort of devil's instrument of the TV into the home was a complete no-no for them. They found they could actually bargain with us by saying, well, if you don't do this, that, and the other, and clean the dishes and whatever, then we get to take away your hours TV privilege during the evenings to watch such and such a show.
I mean, what did Captain Joe says? Friday nights, maybe Saturday, never miss the $6 Million Man or the Incredible Hulk. You can't miss the Hulk. I gotta wash these dishes. What do you say? Cut the grass? All right. You drive a hard bargain there, Papa Bear, but you can't miss Hulk. It's not like you guys could, like rewind or TiVo it, DVR it, watch it later. Like that wasn't really an option.
Well, no, this is the era when VCRs were only just coming in. Yeah. Or probably wouldn't be sort of till the mid 80s when they hit New Zealand in a big way. So
or Betamax.
Yeah, that was around. VHS we mostly were, but yeah.
They won the war.
So yeah, I sort of ended up being sort of dragged away from belief because TV was much more interesting.
It's fair.
And then came movies and
shows like Cosmos. I mean, seriously.
We never got that, but we had sort of there was Star Trek reruns. What else? What else was there? Quite a bit of Jerry Anderson shows. Space 1999 was another big one.
Yeah.
And
I have all the episodes on this computer.
Awesome. Anyway, I was just saying, the big one, I was passing through an airport and I picked up a copy of this book novelization called Star Wars. And it was 6 months before the film came out to theaters. But I read the story and there was like a plate of series of 20 color photos in the middle, and it was just fascinating what it built up in my mind. And I begged my dad to take us to the movie theaters, and he finally took me and my brother, and it was sort of a transformatory experience, and I sort of lived and breathed Star Wars for about the next 2 years after that. And
it's not your fault. That's not your fault. That happened to every single kid on the planet who saw even the trailer for that thing.
Yeah. And I just sort of delved right into it and started discovering a huge amount more. Yes.
And of course, he's being chased by one of these guys. There you go.
Oh man, the sounds.
Yeah.
So and that was sort of what started my thinking, because I really had zero interest in these incredibly dull church meetings, which it would be an hour worth of people sitting around the edges of a room. They'd all stand up to say their piece and ramble on about something and what they'd learned through the week, or you go to a hall and see one of these preachers stand up the front for an hour or more and talk. And I mean, initially I'd been allowed, when I was fairly young, I was allowed to take one of my books or comic books along, and that was fine. I didn't mind that. But when that got taken away from me and I was given a Bible to read, it was just, I mean, and the King James too. So it was all these dull these and I don't know about that.
Well, King James was gay, so yeah.
Oh, okay, yes. Well, and that's another bit that completely gets me about this church is they insist that they're the one true church. Okay, which
Of course,
fine. That every other church is false. However, that the King James Bible is the only authorized word of God. Well, to do that, you have to accept that the historically the Catholic Church and from that the Anglican Church are true churches as well if they produce the text. Otherwise, it seems slightly bizarre and hypocritical if a false church produces the one true authorized word of God.
And do you know how expensive it is to make your own version of the Bible? They're like, you know what? King James is bad about everything, but we are not rewriting this thing word letter for letter. That would be expensive.
We've already done it 14,000 times. So
these days you can just get AI to translate it. So, you know.
Oh, don't tell them that. If they figure out AI, they're out of here. All of us will be in there.
So yeah.
Oh yeah, Fall Guy was awesome too. I remember that. So sorry, a quote in the chat said, "If it ain't Majors, then it ain't Fall Guy." Just saying. Yeah, Fall Guy was great too. His other show.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So yeah. So this input of a mix of TV and Star Wars and all the films and that came after just sort of excited my young imagination. It was far more interesting than this completely mind-numbingly dull church procedure and that made no real sense to me. And plus I'd sort of started asking a lot of questions and that about the way the world was and doing a lot of reading on science and psychology and stuff too. So it just didn't really compute with the way the world was making sense to me.
Right.
And
what
plus,
kind of questions? Richard, hang on. What kind of questions were you throwing at him?
I'm not sure any specific one. I did talk to my dad once about the whole King James question I mentioned. And all sort of, we hear about all these miracles. Why aren't they happening today? And they had a sort of convoluted answer for that. And I don't, to be honest, I don't remember any specific questions, but there were quite a number of them. But it was also the other thing was that switched me off was that going to church was something that was very physically enforced.
King James is in the chat. Sorry.
What was I saying? Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like I remember once I was trying to complete a school project, and if I had to go to church on a Wednesday night, I couldn't do it. And so, I said, no, I want to stay and finish this. And so my dad got so enraged that he grabbed all the books off my bookshelf and was going to throw them on a bonfire in the backyard to make me come to church. Yeah. And there was sort of a lot of other, not specifically church related, but a lot of it was sort of enforced with spankings and physical abuse and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I just, I didn't want to be part of that.
Yeah, no, neither did I, but I couldn't do anything about it at the time.
Well, the thing was I became inventive in the ways I avoided going to meetings. So I would get
The dog
on
ate
Sunday
my Bible.
morning. Sorry?
The dog ate my Bible.
Well,
He's
no, what
very
would
sick.
happen?
He's very sick.
Yeah, he's puking
What
out
would
the same bullshit that he ate.
What would happen is I would on Sunday morning I'd make sure I was the last person to get up to have a shower, and I'd really dawdle and be slow about it, so that I'd always make them late to get to the meeting. And so in the end, they just sort of gave up and left me at home, which I was perfectly fine with. Or I would join on Wednesdays. I'd join the school basketball team, and I was completely useless at basketball, but it gave me an opportunity to get out of the
Me too.
house on a Wednesday evening and not have to go to the meeting. Well, usually I just go and hang out at a friend's place, and we'd listen to some music or something like that, you know.
You went to practice.
But yeah, it's. I mean, I didn't really get away from it until I.
This is called the super chat. Thank you, Fern Lubbon, for the super chat.
Thank you, Fern.
I came this close to overdrafting today. I'm not spending more money on YouTube. Hold on. What's this buy and send button for? Appreciate it.
Thank you.
What was this? Yeah.
There's a dog cousin joke in there somewhere, but I'm not going there today. Love you, Double H.
Fair enough. Yes. So yeah, I'd sort of get out of the house, but it wasn't truly until I left home to get into the workforce at around about the age of either 17 or 18 that I sort of was able to escape and do my own thing.
Yeah.
But even that came with a whole bunch of problems, and that sort of the life I'd been given was so sheltered from the rest of the world. It was like being sort of thrown into the deep end of a pool of sharks in a whole bunch of ways. And there was sort of quite a struggle to just sort of lead a normal life, really, you know. But
right. Maintain.
Yeah. But, you know, I get there.
I'm assuming that no one in your family did the whole we're going out, two of us, and giving up everything and to
No,
the word.
No.
That's weird.
My dad, back in the 1950s, was a what they call a worker in India, but for reasons I've never found out, gave up and came back and got married. My sister went and did it in Sri Lanka. And in fact, my uncle was a top worker in Sri Lanka. My aunt was a worker in India. And that's, as far as I know, is that, yeah. So, you know, we've been around. But, you know, these people have incredible power as well, the workers. They just, their word is it. Everyone does what they say, basically.
Right.
Wow.
So, but
so how was like the leadership structure kind of set up, since they don't really usually have like a building? So like
exactly what I was going to ask too.
So is there like a bishop or like a manager?
This is the weird thing about it, is it's a very decentralized structure. So there's sort of the workers, and they'll be given a particular area of the country, and there are sort of overseer workers who demand in what goes on in the whole region. Like, for instance, I think the USA is divided about into 4 regions, and New Zealand had 1 overall, and they decide what goes on, but there's no above them. There's no particular sort of central structure, central government, or anything that anybody reports back to. So it's just sort of
just
it's
Jesus
like this,
and God, if you think about it, right?
Well, it's sort of this sort of weird self-perpetuating thing that sort of has gone on and on for like 150 years, and has just sort of dug itself deeper and deeper into secrecy and weird.
It
I don't
almost
know
sounds like
what.
Scientology kind of mentality going on.
No. Well, in terms of its secrecy, but in terms of
Secrecy
its
is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
yeah, in terms of its beliefs,
Oh
wildly
no,
different.
different
Yeah.
for sure.
But yeah, and it's sort of there's a lot coming out at the moment about sexual abuse and that's been going on. Which is sort
Shocker.
of yeah, a sort of huge scandal that hit. But basically, I'm paraphrasing the story, but one of the overseers was found dead in a motel room in Oregon in 2022.
Wow.
And on his laptop, there was information about assignations he'd had with all manner of people, sort of both, and apparently several that were underage.
Yeah.
And this has sort of created a real groundswell of change within a church that's very resistant to change. And there's sort of a major FBI investigation underway, and there's sort of like one of the groups I belong to, they're reporting there's sort of something like 400 cases and of just underage abuse that's come out around the world since all of this came to light. And that's sort of not mentioning anything to do with people that were consenting adults as well, because the workers, the priesthood, are meant to remain celibate and not have any kind of relations whatsoever. So,
oh boy, this sounds like a great religion.
What?
God damn! No TV, no rock and roll, no God.
Nothing. So yeah,
I just plant myself in the ground now.
Scam. It's a scam.
Fucking scam. But I mean, okay, that's another weird thing about it is that
do you even get heaven at the end?
As long as you go to church 2 or 3 times a week, you can do and have no TV and adopt the dress code. You can do pretty much whatever else you want. There are people who have members I know who have extremely unscrupulous business practices or adopt ultra right-wing politics. And are just basically awful people. Some of them, not all of them, but but it seems okay. It doesn't really matter if you're ripping people off or having fraudulent businesses. Then, as long as you go to church 2 or 3 times a week, you're going to heaven. Score. And to me. Wow. If you're going to believe, it's sort of about being at least a decent human being.
Yeah. Speaking of decent human beings, the Bank of Ferns has chimed in with a super chat, $5. Bank of Ferns says your account is overdrawn. A $30 fee will be applied to your balance.
Okay.
Thank you, Banks of Ferns.
Was that spam or advertisers?
No, it's just our chat having some fun.
Oh, okay.
You can send a super chat if you want to help support the channel, right? So.
Oh, okay.
And they leave their little comments in there. Fern was the first person that did a thing. So now the Bank of Ferns, someone mocking them, is telling them that their account is overdrawn. Who knew you could get banking information? Only here on Deconversion Stories.
Yeah.
Banking details updated.
You got a tracker.
Yeah, we have all of your banking information, so we'll just let you guys know if anybody's getting
cookies.
close. We're getting nearby.
Clean out your cash.
It's a cleaning sale.
Send me all the cash.
So yeah, that's sort of basically about the essence of the 2x2s. That's they're very secretive.
Can I ask some like what you guys were like taught and believed? So I get like you guys use the King James Bible, but they usually have like their own slant to it. So was there something about what because you're out now, so you've kind of seen what other Christians and everybody else was up to. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things about that they do is they like isolate you, so you don't even know what the rest of the religions are talking about, or that you're talking about the same thing or something totally different. Now that you're all the way out, what kind of things do you think that they kind of focused on for their members to kind of really drill into them?
Good question.
Basically, it was the clothing code, but that wasn't even really one that was sort of more enforced by people around you. There was definitely the no having TV, radio, things like that. But those are pretty much the main things I remember.
So media.
And okay. One other aspect I will mention is you have you get married once within the church, and that's it. If you get divorced, then there's no chance ever of getting married again.
You get one ticket.
Yep. And my youngest sister got was forced into getting married at the age of 17 after getting pregnant.
Yowzer.
And there were sort of other people that I knew who and then when that split up, she was under quite a bit of pressure to go back to this guy.
Why did she leave him? Was he abusive? Or?
I don't really know. I mean, again, I don't know if I want to tell too much of her story here.
Sure. Of course.
But there's
so their thing wasn't, you guys should fix your relationship. It's like, no, if you want to get married again, you need to go find him, because that's you stamped your passport with that guy, so you guys are together forever now.
Yep.
What if somebody dies? What if somebody dies though? Can you get remarried?
Well, that's fine. And my mother sort of got a second ticket after my dad died and was able to get remarried. So that's the sole chance. But if you convert to the church and have been previously married, then you're single for life. That's it.
Well, that goes with the scheme, though, right? Because you're gonna give up all your stuff and go off into the woods and go talk to trees until you run into two people that you can convert. That's the point, right?
Not everybody gives up all their belongings.
Okay.
So it's just that's restricted to the workers or priesthood among the church. But
gotcha.
Okay.
The rest of the general populace lead normal lives pretty much.
But they can go out and do missionary type stuff without having to give anything up, right?
No, you've got to make an active choice to become part of the worker scheme. And once you do, then you give up your. Well,
good choice.
I don't know whatever they call it, but what you do, you then give up your things, and then you live like that. You can opt out of it, as my dad did and my sister did, but others have stayed in there for life. So yeah.
And I ain't giving up my weed. Sorry, weed stays.
I'll wear my.
Of course, I can take that with me.
I'll wear my hair in a bun if I can smoke weed.
No,
we can compromise.
No. Drugs, alcohol of any type are definite no-nos. Apart from
not surprising.
apart from communion wine to be had on the Sunday morning. So, but that was it. And
what about communion? Did you guys do communion?
Yeah, it was just basically on each Sunday morning there'd be a cup of wine and a piece of bread was passed around the room with everyone around the wall, and you'd take a bite and a drink, and that was it.
Were you guys did you guys
tastes like Jesus?
Yeah, were you guys like miracle Eucharist believers, or were you guys thinking like this is symbolic? We're not literally eating flesh. We're just doing this as a remembrance. Because I've been to like many a church that were Eucharist heavy, and I was just like, you think you're eating meat right now? All right, I gotta go. Where's the door? My keys somewhere.
I don't think a lot of people really delve too deeply into that, but and it was just a lot of it was just part of people did it because that's what everybody did. And
lemming syndrome.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about this group is that they very rarely have any converts from outside. Almost everybody. Sorry.
I said, wow.
Yeah, almost everybody who's in it is someone who's been raised in it. They marry someone within it, their children, and so on and so on. And they do hold other meetings and they will do sort of leaflet drops, but they're not sort of like the Jehovah's Witnesses and that going around knocking on your door trying to actively argue with you and convert you or anything like that. Not like Ray Comfort preaching on a ladder. So, yeah.
Yeah. What a great conversion tactic. Hey, are you eating dinner right now? Hey, yo, screw your dinner. I'm about to argue with you, son. Come up to this door right now. Come here.
But I'll give you a banana.
If you win this debate, you can have one banana.
Just the way he goes on with that thing. It's made perfectly for the heat. It's like, Ray,
and
you have any idea how suggestive that looks?
He's just stroking it.
The thing about the banana thing is that he was doing that back in the 1980s in the Square as well.
Yeah.
So he's been doing it forever, and he used to make these really awful sort of comic books about so long that he'd give out that would
little tracks.
Chick tracks. Those are called chick tracks.
Yeah.
We got them here too. I see. It was so funny because he stopped doing the banana shtick once he realized that the banana he was showing everybody was genetically modified by human beings. And the original banana looked nothing at all like the bananas we have now.
Yeah. But
not gonna let facts get in the way of my good argument, Neil.
Damn it.
I'm not gonna let you stop. This is clearly engineered.
Before we get into the after party, Richard, I want to talk to you about this. I found this, and it's linked in the description box below, folks. I found this funny little website called Moria, and it is science fiction, horror, and fantasy film review. And this is the site that you run.
It is.
So
yes.
I kind of want to. What prompted you to do that? And I've noticed you're right up to date. You've even got the newest, apparently really crappy Ghostbusters movie on there too.
Yep. Basically, it came, as I mentioned earlier, there was, because TV and film had been forbidden, I became more and more fascinated with watching it. And because it was sort of such a rare thing to be able to do, I would keep careful notes about everything I watched. And that sort of, and then after the whole Star Wars explosion, I wanted to see more and more of similar types of things. So I started keeping extensive notes about what was out there, and that led me to discover older things and newer ones that were coming out. And I'd want to watch these. And as it sort of grew, it turned into sort of me writing notes and writing reviews of them. And basically, I started publishing those in amateur magazines in the 80s, and then discovered the internet a few years later. The first version of Moria went online in 1999. In fact, it celebrates its 25th anniversary this month.
Hey, nice.
So yeah, and it's gone through several different iterations since then, but it's now become, as far as I'm aware, the largest sole reviewer site of its type in the world.
Wow!
So,
congrats.
You are the king of reviews.
I don't know about that, but
has anyone stolen your crown? Then you are king.
Well, I don't know. It's a bit of a dubious crown sometimes, but
a small crown.
By the way,
a
the
placard,
banana says Ray Comfort used me. I'm so ashamed.
I didn't see the picture. Oh my God. It's so happy. It's the happiest banana.
That's what I used to call it. Never mind. So
about that town square and Ray Comfort.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen or gone through and read some of your reviews, and I'm pretty much on par with you for most of the stuff that I was interested in that you also seen and reviewed. We think along the same ways, I think, when it comes to these kinds of movies. So that's pretty impressive. That one more quick little question for you here, I think, from Fern LaBonde. For Richard, has anyone ever published writings about the 2x2 doctrines, or is it all orally transmitted?
There's no official text or anything like that. But people who have dropped out have published like histories of it. But again, they're not ones that are accepted by the people who believe.
Right.
But there are sort of some books around that you can find where people have gone into tracing the history of it and disproving the belief that it was that the workers traced their lineage all the way back to the apostles.
Wow.
That's the claim they make, eh? Wow.
That's a big claim.
Yeah. But basically, it was started by a guy in Ireland in the 19th century, and he himself ended up being kicked out of it. Yeah. And,
are you for real? Is that seriously the guy that created this got kicked out?
He did, yeah.
Oh shit!
He wasn't pure enough, Neil.
There's several websites around that tell the history of it. It can do a better job of summating it than I do. And there's a very good Facebook group of former members who, the expert 2x2s, who are have grouped together and are dealing with their own stories and and so forth.
It was like Project Mayhem. So even when Edward Norton tried to stop it in Fight Club, even like when he tried to stop it, they're like, "Nah, man, gotta go for his balls." He's like, "No, wait." He's like, "Nah, man, you gotta get kicked out. It's your own rule." It's crazy.
Yeah, actually, Ferd made a good point there. It's like Joseph Smith getting excommunicated from the LDS Church by Brigham Young.
Yeah.
You think you can just start a cult and have a good life, and then people just kick you out, all left and right. They just kick you out, make their own cult.
Oh, Kentucky Atheist just popped into the chat, which will prompt me to say, Mikey and I will be on the Kentucky Atheist show on the 30th of June, right at the end of the month. So we're gonna. Well, hopefully it's nice here, but we tend to call June around here, and Richard can back me up on this. We call it January because it generally tends to be kind of crappy, like it is right now outside. Like I have to wear a coat, man. It's the end of May. It should be like 25, 26 degrees. So, that's Celsius, people. But oh no, it's like 12 degrees outside.
I was about to say that sounds cold.
It is cool. No, 25 is good. That's like 70 something.
So you guys haven't warmed up yet?
Nope. Well, we did for a bit, and then it went away.
There's been some decent days, but we also had one of the warmest winters on record as well. So
I have to laugh because our planet's dying, and I have to laugh to stop from just tearing up in front of everybody. Like the weather is so messed up. It's so not right.
Here's a little chart that I found online that very well explains Vancouver seasons. All right, so here I'll read it to you. We'll start in January because that is the beginning of the year, and it's most of January is rain. Then it says Snowmageddon number 2 because December. So and then it says more rain. Then it says false start spring.
That's where
then
you're
it
at
says no, that's in February. Then March comes around and it's more rain. Then April comes around and it's more rain. Then May kicks around, and about halfway through May, spring is supposed to kick in. Then it goes back to rain. And then June hits, and we get January. And then we get a little bit of summer. Then we get the season that runs from June, the end of June through July and through most of August, and about halfway or a third into September. That's called smoke because everything's on fire. Then we get summer number 2. Then we get false fall. Then we get summer number 3. Then we get fall. Then back to rain. And then we get Snowmageddon number 1, which happens in the early December. And more rain. And there you go. That's the full circle.
I feel like those should all be the titles of movies. Rain, more rain, false fall. I would watch all of these movies.
That's pretty much what it's like around here.
Pretend spring, like pump fake spring. I'd watch that.
It's about to be spring. Ha ha! Fooled you.
Psych your mom. Fucking spring.
It's like that little meme I posted every year when the sun starts to go to bed a little earlier, and finally it hits that point where it's like you see the guy walking down the street. Oh, it's a beautiful day out, and then all of a sudden the sun goes. Okay, everybody, see you later. Good night, everyone. He goes. It's fucking 4:30. I know. Good night, everybody. Fuck you. See you later.
I feel bad. My wife has to work so early, so she has to go to bed sometimes when the fucking sun is out.
Oh man.
Yeah, you know, I got to say, Kentucky Atheist just pointed out something really well, and I've seen Seth Anders point out about this as well, that they've got tornado shit going on down there. Well, I'm glad I'm not down there. That's the one thing we don't have on our chart here. Mind you, last year we did have a tornado. Well, it was a water spout actually off the coast here. So.
You could count the one you had. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
we can't count
all two.
We can't count all of our funnel clouds here in the Midwest.
No.
Well, we also do get a lot of bushfires in that as well, which is is making life not fun for people.
That's why July. What the July? It's called smoke season because it's all fucking smoke right here. Jaloon. That's why you just merged the two.
No, that's a good character last name. Oh, what's your name? Briggs.
Jaloon. D Murphy's in the chat now. Hi D. D can totally back me up on this, and Richard, you know too. We have that. July is basically the season we call smoke from all the fire.
Pretty much. Yep.
All right. Well, Richard, we are pretty much wrapped up here. I think we usually ask a question to our guests, the one that we usually do. Today, I'll let Mr. Mikey ask the question, and then we'll get into the after party, and I'll speak a little bit more on that before we end the show.
Okay. So, if you could go back in time and talk to previous believer self, what advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, I was never what they would accept as a believer. So, which actually requires during one of the meetings that you stand up and make a proclamation of faith. I never went through with that. I think.
Bravo.
I'm not sure. I would have sort of encouraged myself to get away from home and
break out
and
earlier,
do that.
in other words.
Break out earlier. But maybe also sort of gain a lot more in the way of life skills that in doing before I went. But again, they're hard to teach. I'd go back and tell myself follow different career paths or something like that. But I think that would be the main things to do. But yeah.
Well, I mean, it could just be like turn left at Albuquerque. It didn't have to be like...
Little quote from the Bugs Bunny show.
Avoid certain people throughout your life, things like that.
Yeah, that's a different kind of smoke, but sure, Ollie would love the smoke season if it was that. If a weed factory went up in flames, Ollie'd be like, "Get out of my way! I'm coming!"
You just hear, just hear his feet fucking coming. You feel the earth move under your feet.
With like a giant tarp and a siphon, he could just suck the whole thing up in one blow.
He grabbed a local hot air balloon and used it as a bomb.
Yeah. So they call those volcanoes. Huh?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway. Well, Richard, thanks, brother. It's great to have you on. Finally, we've been talking about this for a little while now. And
not a problem.
A pleasure hearing your story and having a little bit of fun. I'm glad you got out of that wackadoodle belief system that you were once a part of and are hanging out with the likes of us well-meaning, humanistic type atheist people. So,
indeed, yes.
Well, most of us are, anyways. Except for that Michael Earhart guy.
Much better parties, but yes.
Yeah. At least we can drink. Well, I can't anymore.
Yes.
But yes. Yeah.
I'm about to say some of us can drink.
I can still smoke, so fuck you.
Yeah.
But I had a beer yesterday. I cheated and had a beer, so it's okay.
Okay.
IPA.
I'm not dead yet.
At least you're allowed to, if you want. So
if I one won't be a big deal, but I tend to like the near beers that are actually good, like the ones from local breweries that you can get that are IPAs.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah,
and they're 0.5 instead of 5%, right? So I can have a couple of those and be fine.
Just try to make your own beer, Neil. It'll probably be like super weak because you're not like a skilled brewer. So you'll make your own near beer just trying to do it like they were doing it. It's got to be hard to make it good.
Yeah.
Giggity.
Simply Secular Dave wants to know, because he used to go donate blood with me. Him and Randolph and I used to go donate blood together all the time. I as long as I'm on the anticoagulants, which I still am, I cannot donate blood.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So we're going to do an after party, guys. If you want to jump in and hang out with Richard, Mikey, myself, let us know. We'll get a link to you. Mikey, you want to throw the link in the private chat for Richard here so we can, or actually I can dump it in your Facebook too. After we close out, Richard, stay through the credits and all that, and we'll talk to you a little bit after that. But anyway, thanks everyone in the chats for hanging out with us. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show. A little bit of a different, never heard of the 2x2s until tonight, to be honest. When people say 2x2, I'm always thinking about Lego bricks. Oh yeah, the little 4-piece square one, right? 2x2. Anyway, but that's just my head. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Thanks to all our patrons and our members. And if you'd like to find out about how you can become either one of those, there are links for that below. If you dig all the tunes that you hear at the beginning and the end of the show, we got links to all of Mikey and Mine's music down below. Also, there is the link to Richard's review site, Moria .com. It's a science fiction, horror, and fantasy reviews.
MoriaReviews.com.
MoriaReviews.com. Yeah, it's linked in below, so they can go click on that anyway. All right, and until then, guys, like I always say at the end of the interview part of the show. Oh, by the way, if you just want to hang out in the chat in the after party, there's a link to do that too.
Oops.
Like the late great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Okay. All right.
What's on